I must have about 50 different ways to play Pac-Man. But you know what that means. There's always room for 51. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and today we're going to be taking a look at this Arcade1Up Pacman Collection wireless gaming console thingy. And I've seen a bunch of these different things over the years. Super cheap ones, a little bit better ones. And this one popped up on my radar. It was super cheap during the kind of Black Friday sale type stuff. And it was time to finally test it out. Now there's a couple reasons why I wanted to test this one out. It's got some features on it that I'm looking forward to testing out. But let's go ahead and take a look at what it's supposed to be, and then we're going to get it out and start playing with it. So basically what we got here is a wireless controller. This is 2.4 gigahertz wireless controller. Got a little console here that's going to plug into your TV, and then it comes with 10 games that you're going to be able to play. It says it's got a classic 6-button controller. I don't understand why it needs 6 buttons, because I'm looking at the lineup of games here, and unless they added some buttons to Pac-Man and Galaga, I'm not seeing anything that requires 6 buttons, so I'm not sure what they all are required for. But it looks like a retro, Sega Genesis type controller, so why not? Why not put 6 buttons on it? So speaking of the games, we've got Pac-Man, Pac-Mania, New Rally X, Galaga, Galaga 88, Dig Dug, Exevious, Rolling Thunder, Dragon Spirit, and Mappy. So a pretty decent lineup of games. Like I said, I've probably got the same type of collection of games about 50 times over, between different console ports and different small devices that you plug in, or small devices that you just play handheld. All kinds of different Pac-Man collection games to play with, but this one, like I said, it had some interesting features that I'm anxious to try out. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and pop this thing open and see what it looks like. So I think the key to this thing is to keep your expectations low and let it surprise you. So here's the console itself, nice and small, super lightweight. There's got to be hardly anything in there. We got a HDMI port, a micro USB port for power, and then a micro SD card slot here. I wonder what that could be used for. A couple USB ports on the front here for additional controllers, which is going to be fun to test out, because speaking of controllers and speaking of low expectations, I mean, this thing is super light. The D-pad on it is it's okay. It's not the best, it's not the worst. The buttons are pretty cruddy, but it's to be expected. I mean, this thing is super cheap, right? All plastic, darn near hollow. That's going to need to throw some batteries in there. So low expectations. Actually got some shoulder buttons here again. Not sure why we need shoulder buttons for Pac-Man and stuff, but maybe for the UI, maybe for getting to the menus. And then looks like we actually have a micro USB here also if we wanted to hook this thing up wireless, and a wireless on or off switch. So we can attach this thing right to the console. Now it is 2.4 gigahertz, and it says it'll work up to 25 feet away. So you can definitely have this thing on your TV and sit on the couch and do this. And then we've got, looks like an HDMI cord and a power cord for the console. So again, about what I expected. Looking at this thing, I'm no stranger to Arcade1Up. I've got many Arcade1Up products, mostly the countercades and the 3/4 size arcades, and even some partycades and stuff. But this is the first, I guess, cheapo product that I've purchased from them. So it'll be interesting to see, how well their software works, how well the emulation works, and how well the cheap little product works. So let's go ahead and power this thing up, hook it up to our little monitor here, and see what we got. I love how every company just assumes that we have some kind of power source. Of course I do, but that's kind of cheap. And also it drives me crazy that they put a tiny little screw in here for the battery door. I understand why they do it, but it's just one more step that you have to do to change out your batteries. Luckily, I've always got my trusty Strabito screwdriver kit to help me out in situations like this. Alright, 2 AAA batteries later, not included, we are ready to fire this thing up. So let's go ahead and turn this on by switching the wireless switch on. I got a blinky red light, and I'm assuming that this is the power button here. And I did say that the power cord here didn't come with a brick, but at least the power cord itself is a decent length. It's not like 1 foot like some of these things come with, and it is actually a pretty decent quality. So here we are. Looks like it booted right up, and here's our list of games, and the controller works. So that's good. So I think we need to go ahead and test out a game. Let's go ahead and grab Pac-Man. Now I did notice that the instruction book had a pretty handy little decipher code here for what buttons did what on these games. So let me show you that real quick. So here's all 10 games with the controller and what button does what for shoot, jump, bomb, that kind of stuff. And for all 10 games, you see what they do. Now, again, I don't see anything that shows more than, 2 buttons. So I guess the extra buttons are there for bonus. So let's go ahead and try this out. Hit the start button. And then it reminds us again what button does what. Now, of course, we don't need any buttons at all except for just starting the game. And let's go ahead and get into a game. So let's try hitting the start here to add a credit. And you can see the quality of the buttons. I pushed it once, but it registered several times. So you get what you pay for, I guess. You can't expect a whole lot for... This is only like 25 bucks, I think. And actually the D-pad isn't that bad. At least it's not super clicky. Not super loud. Now I'm assuming that some of the buttons would be. But this is, I would definitely get my $25 worth out of playing this, especially since it's super easy. You just hook it up to a TV. You don't have to worry about, hooking up the old yellow and red and white cables to something to play something. So, yeah, this is pretty cool. I think you hit the select button to go back. Hold the select button, maybe. The instructions said hold the select button. Alright, let's look at the instructions again. Hold select 5 seconds to return to main menu. Let me try that again. Alright, that was a little bit more than 5 seconds. So it does work. I was just a little too impatient. So yeah, so this is pretty cool. Again, good list of games. I love me some Rally X. I'm surprised that Bosconian isn't on here because almost every time I've had a Pac-Man, Rally X, and Exevius game, I've always had Bosconian on there too, which is a favorite of mine. But we've got something like Dragon Spirit, which I don't ever remember playing, so let's go ahead and try that one out. So we got shoot and bomb. Alright, so it looks like a simple shoot 'em up type game. I do remember playing this in the arcades, after all. So let's go ahead and see how these buttons work. Yeah, not too bad. And they aren't as near as clicky as what I thought. Maybe the shoulder buttons were... Yeah, the shoulder buttons are definitely clicky. Let's try one of these bombs here. Yeah, so... not too bad for some cheap buttons. So now what I want to do is I want to try these USB ports here. Because we already know the controller works. Let's see what else we can get to work in this USB port. Alright, so I read that a simple Xbox controller will work fine. So I've got an Xbox Series S/X controller wired right in with a USB-C to USB-A cable. And I don't even have batteries in this. It powered it up for me, so that's good. And without anything, it just works. So let's go ahead and load up some Dig Dug and see how it works with this controller. Now I did just hit it once, and it took 2 credits again, so it must just have a really fast pulling rate on those buttons maybe, because I did not double tap it. I just single tapped it and it took 2 credits. But as far as controls go, this one is definitely nicer than the included one, but you do have to use this wired, so that is one of the caveats, is you'll have to have it wired, and I don't think there's any games here that would be 2-player capable, at least the included games, that you would be using 2 different controllers plugged in at the same time. Now when I did have the other controller turned on, it was just duplicating the same actions, so I think it just sees it as one controller. But I think we're going to have to find a 2-player game somehow. I don't know how, but somehow we're going to find one that we can test out that theory. But before we do that, let's go ahead and try a different controller. Alright, so check it out. This is the 8-bit Do arcade stick, and it's not the Xbox version. This is just the original one that's good for PC and Switch. But it does have a switch up here to between Switch mode and X input mode. So we've got a couple different options on this, Bluetooth and 2.4. So I've got the 2.4 gigahertz receiver in here. I've got it in X input mode, and it doesn't work, right? I wasn't exactly expecting it to work, but I was kind of hopeful. But what I did after I pushed all the buttons and saw what it did, I actually found out that here is the start button right here, and it's actually this one right here. And if we go ahead and hit that again, we can get into the game. And let's go ahead and start up the game. And lo and behold, the joystick works once you get into the game. So let's start up the game and see if it works in all 4 directions. And here we go. So once you get into the game, it actually works as a good joystick. And if this had fire buttons, it would actually be this one right here. And then to get out of the game, the start button here is actually the one that gets you back. So if I hold that for that 5 seconds, which is actually more like 6 or 7 seconds, then we get back to the main menu. So I think you'd have to have something like this turned on, perhaps, and use this maybe to go around here. So let's go ahead and pick Galaga and see if we can start into this game here with the controller. Still adding way too many credits when you push the button. But now let's see if we can... Yep. So we got ourselves an arcade stick. Even though we're not using the official Xbox version, which I don't have, so if I did, I would test it out for you. But at least we know that you may be able to get something working that's not either the included controller or the regular Xbox Series SX controller. Alright, so far so good. We got a nice little console here. We got 10 games built in. We got some options of either the included controller or an Xbox controller, or you may be able to get something else working for you. But let's step it up one more notch. And we saw in the back there is a micro SD card slot. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. I did put a micro SD card in there. And we're going to have the standard boot up screen right here. But then in just a second we're going to see that this thing's got a little bit more power in it than we thought it did. So it's giving us the option here of either booting from local storage or micro SD. So we're going to go ahead and hit start on that. And here you can see I set up 3 directories: NES, Genesis, and Super Nintendo. And we can go into any one of these, and let's go ahead and load up Mega Man, which incidentally they make one of these exactly like this. It's got several Mega Man games built onto it, so it should be no surprise that it works. And sure enough, here we go. So more than just a Pac-Man machine, we got ourselves a little Nintendo emulator here. And yeah, the joystick works just fine for it. So let's go ahead and hit that select button, hold it down. We get back to our menu. Hit B to go back the directory structure. Let's go ahead and grab Genesis and try out this Sonic the Hedgehog. Now you can start to see why you may want 6 buttons on your controller. And they happen to look just like a Sega Genesis controller, 6-button controller. And sure enough, here we go. Sega Genesis working just fine. So let's go ahead and back out of this. Back up one directory. Let's go into SNES and boot up some Super Mario World. And look at that. We got ourselves a little Super Nintendo also. So there are some quirks with getting the games into the right directories and how they show up there. This UI that you get on the SD card is not the greatest. There are some, like I said, there are some tricks to getting your games to show up right, but once you do, you may have to scroll down a long list depending on how many games you put in here. But I would say just throw a couple of your favorite games in here. Give yourself an option of either playing with the 10 that's built in, or playing, a handful of games that you already have in your collection that maybe you just don't want to hook up your Super Nintendo to your big screen TV anymore. You just have this little thing here and it plays it just fine. So I'm not going to show you how to load the games on there. I'm not going to show you where to get the games from, but I will link down in the description below on where you can find some instructions on how to do that. There's a couple other YouTubers that made pretty good tutorials on how to get the games to show up on that SD card. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. Just wanted to test this thing out, see what it can do. I think there's still more systems that will work in here. I just tried the 3 most popular that I thought would work, and they all seem to work just fine. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw those down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, hope you will give me a thumbs up because that helps out the channel. If you want to see more stuff like this, then go ahead and check out the rest of the channel. I got all kinds of geeky stuff for you to check out. I'll leave a link to this guy down in the description below too. Go ahead and check it out. Stick it in your cart. Maybe wait for a sale. See how cheap you can get it. I think I paid around 25 bucks for it. And for everything that it can do, it's definitely worth that. So that's going to do it for this one. I thank you as always for watching. And until next time, peace out and geek out.